All right, good evening. It's 6 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kathleen Podrosky, and I want to thank all of you for attending this evening. We have people who are attending by Zoom, and we also have people who are listening through YouTube. So welcome. Thank you for coming. So my name is Kathleen. I'm one of the community outreach supervisors with VTA's Community Outreach and Public Engagement Group. And among the roles I hold, I lead the outreach for our transit-oriented development program. And tonight I'm joined by my co-host, Jolene Bradford, who also recently joined the TOD program and will be leading outreach on several of our TOD projects. And tonight we're going to be behind the scenes moderating all the Zoom bells and whistles. And our colleague, Kelly Snyder, you'll meet her in just a few minutes. She will be moderating the program for this evening. We're also joined by our other colleague, Cody Kratz. He's helping us with a lot of the Zoom setup as well. And before we start this meeting, we're going to do a little Zoom housekeeping. This is different. I'm used to hosting live meetings where we go over a lot of the logistics and we're able to talk to each other face to face. So this feels so silent and quiet and impersonal, so we're going to try to make this more personal as we can. We have held 3 face-to-face community meetings on this project, in addition to other public meetings for this project. But for this VTA-hosted meeting, we've had 3 others, and this is the first one we've done this way. This is a webinar, and so you can see us. We have a panel of VTA employees and developer employees that you'll meet, and next to our names, we have listed our organization so you can tell who's with VTA and who's with the development team. And you can see us, but we can't see you. We're going to go through the presentation, so kind of give you a layout of the land here. We'll go through the presentation tonight, and then we'll open this up for discussion and Q&A. Everyone is muted, and when it's time for Q&A, at the bottom of your screen, there's a little bar and you can raise your hand. It looks like a hand. And we will, either Jolene or I, we will unmute you and then you can speak. And same thing, it looks like somebody's already seen it. There's a Q&A box. You can type in your question if you prefer to respond or communicate with us that way. So that's another option. This webinar is being recorded and it will be available on VTA's YouTube channel in a few days. It usually takes a few days. I will also have the slides that we're going to present this evening available on the project webpage tomorrow. And any of the links that we show at the end of the meeting, I'll make sure those are live so you can link onto that as well. And in a live meeting, we have a code of conduct, and in a webinar, we also have a code of conduct. We want to make sure we treat all of our participants with kindness, respect, and consideration. There's a lot of diversity in ideas and views and opinions, and we want to make sure that we want to communicate openly, and if we have criticism, we critique the ideas, not the people that are behind the ideas. We don't tolerate any demeaning or discriminatory or harassing behavior, and if that occurs, then we will have to remove participants that don't adhere to that. We've never had to do that. This is all new, having to hold these meetings this way, so we'll embrace this moment, and we're all learning, trying something new. Feel free to type your questions, raise your hand. We do ask that you mute your audio, and when I'm done speaking, I will mute so you don't hear the delivery truck that's going to come by later. The end of the meeting, if you haven't already, there is a survey that has been available. It was advertised when we advertised the meeting on Eventbrite, and it's on the webpage that our developer has put together. And if you haven't taken it, there will be an opportunity at the end of this meeting when we close the webinar, you'll see if you're on the Zoom channel, it will say, do you want to take this survey? Click to continue. And if you would like to click to continue, you can do that and it will link you directly to the survey. Or you can go to the VTA website, the project site, which will give you the link at the end of this. You can go there to do it. So many ways. You can go to the VTA the project page. We have a link there. We'll give you the link at the end of this, so you can take the survey. It's 10 questions, takes 2 minutes. It's a really nice, easy survey to give some opinion and rank, some things you would like to see for this development. And let's see, do I have any more things I want to make sure I get out to you? It's being recorded. We have a survey. Are there any questions about how the webinar runs before I go? Are there any hands up? I don't see any hands up. Make sure I don't. Okay, I do see in the Q&A, is it about this? Okay, and we are joined by San Jose City Council member Johnny Camus. Welcome. So with that, I am going to turn this over to get my cursor in the right spot so I can do this, to my next colleague, Kelly Snyder.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Kathleen. Hi, I'm Kelly Snyder. Can you go back one slide to the agenda, to the list? We haven't had a chance to look at this, so I just want to make sure for a moment or two you can take a look. We think this webinar will be about 30 more minutes or so, and then we have up to an hour for Q&A at that point and to do the survey that Kathleen mentioned. So I promise I'll just be 2 or 3 more minutes and then a couple of small sort of intros to get you familiar with the whole team. And then we'll have Melanie and Melissa from our developer partner actually spend quite a bit of time talking about the actual project that is being proposed tonight. Thank you. Next slide. So my name's, next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm Kelly, as Kathleen said, and I'm the project manager for VTA. I'm managing this entire development project. VTA does a lot more than just light rail or buses, which it might be what you're familiar with. They do a lot of construction of major capital projects, as you can see, things like the new BART stations that came down to Milpitas and to Berryessa. A lot of the highway interchanges are part of VTA's work. They, of course, do a lot of transit work, the buses and the light rails, as we talked about. And they do a lot of planning and other sort of infill development as well. So this, and if you're not familiar, on the other side of the screen right now, you'll see who the elected board of, or who the appointed board of directors is for VTA. So depending on what city you live in, probably most of you joining us tonight live in San Jose. If you have an interest in this site, then you'll recognize many of these names. These are some of your San Jose council members, as well as County of Santa Clara supervisors. There's also people on the board who will be making these decisions ultimately who come from other cities in the county as well, from Mountain View, from Sunnyvale, from Gilroy as well. So that's what VTA does. And tonight we're going to take it down into just one little part of one of those red boxes, and we're going to talk about planning and future land uses that VTA has. So if you can move to the next slide, please. Great. So I work with VTA specifically in this thing called the Transit-Oriented Development Program. This is a very specific program that applies only to 25 different sites throughout the county. Many of them are today parking lots or sort of like corporation yards that VTA uses. You can see on the map, everything that's a red or a yellow or a green dot is one of our transit-oriented development sites. The Blossom Hill site is number 5, I think, right around where Highway 85 intersects Blossom Hill Road. The goal of the transit-oriented development program throughout all 25 of the sites, and specifically on the Blossom Hill site, is for VTA to continue to own the property. We are not selling the property. We are not allowed to sell the property. This will continue to be a public asset owned and operated by VTA. What we want to do is lease it to our development. Go back, please. We want to lease it to our development partners, and you're going to meet them tonight and learn about what they're proposing to do, but VTA will stay the owner. The goal of these private investment projects and partnerships is to, number one, create more riders who live and work close to our existing infrastructure in transit, so our light rail lines, our bus stations, our BART lines. We want to catalyze other nearby properties to also get a little more intense so that we don't have lots of big empty parking lots or big vacant fields next to our transit infrastructure. We want to create a whole community of mixed uses, places to live and work and shop and eat. And by partnering with developers like Green Republic, we also are able to collect revenue that comes in every year for 50 or 60 or 70 years. And that revenue can be used to run our trains and run our transit and pay for our security and pay for, employees to drive the trains and the buses. So it's all about generating revenue and riders in order to reinvest into our existing transit system. So that's what the TOD program does, Transit Oriented Development Program does. Like I said, our next slide, please. Ours is site number 5. It's the Blossom Hill Station site. And Kathleen mentioned, we've had a number of meetings about this. We actually began almost 3 years ago in the very beginning of 2018 with some community meetings. We've had about every 6 or 9 months since then. We've sort of been, slowly inching the project forward. We did a call for proposals. We visited the board at a board hearing to make sure that they approved of what was being proposed and the structure of the ground lease going forward. We came back to you and showed you what the initial concept was. That was our Meet the Developer meeting. And earlier this year, about 4 months ago in April, the developer actually rolled out the blueprints and did sort of all the planning and the measuring and submitted an application to the city of San Jose. So even though VTA is the property owner and will continue to be, everything has to be approved by the city planning department, just like any other project in the city of San Jose would. So this goes through the regular city of San Jose planning process. And right now that application has been submitted and it's just waiting to be reviewed. And part of coming to you and asking for your thoughts and answering your questions or hearing your questions, if we can't answer them, is to inform what the next set of revisions will be to this project. So that's where we've been. And then what's coming up next slide, please, is we'll do this meeting tonight on September 9th. Sometime in October, the city of San Jose will invite you to another community meeting where the environmental review documentation will be kicked off. And if you want to make sure you are invited to that meeting, it will also be a webinar like this, then please go to our website, Blossom Hill Development, and sign up for the email list. If you get little postcards in the mail, you can look forward to getting a few more of those, but you definitely want to sign up for our email list if you want to triple check that you get invited. Later this spring, we expect the project to be final. Feedback from you and from other projects will be incorporated by the developer tonight and over the next 6 months or so. By next summer, within a year, we hope to have all the environmental review complete. And we'll be back at you with 1 or 2 more community meetings during that period as well. And right now, roughly, we expect the approval of the project to be the end of 2021. So about a year from now, maybe a little bit more, 12 or 14 months from now. So this is not the last time you're going to hear from us and not the last time you're going to hear from Green Republic. And hopefully we'll have enough time to answer your questions tonight and over the next 12 or 14 months as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Melissa Durkin, who is the Vice President at Green Republic, and she is going to introduce you to who the development team is, and they're going to show you exactly what they're planning, what they're hoping to build there. Thanks.
A second, real quick, before we go to Melissa, I just wanted to mention we have a couple of actually looks like we have about 3 call-ins, and I just wanted to let you folks know that when we go to our discussion and Q&A, you're able to toggle your mute and raising hand. So if you want, when you go to discussion, you can raise your hand with *9 and mute with *6. I believe I got that correct. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So next slide, please. So hi, good evening. My name is Melissa Durkin, Vice President of Development with Republic Urban Properties and the project manager for this Blossom Hill TOD project, and also representing the development partnership of Green Republic Blossom Hill. It's really hard to believe our last community meeting was over a year ago, but we have been super busy working on this project. So I'm really excited to present the plans with all of you tonight via Zoom. So we've been refining architecture, finalizing the residential unit counts of the buildings, looking at the amount of commercial and retail space that we're providing. We've even added a community room that the neighboring neighborhoods can use. We've created public open spaces like plazas and paseos. And we've also had numerous meetings with the city, county, and water district to really look at the feasibility and logistics for the Creek Trail and extending it from Blossom Hill Road all the way to Marshall Cottle Park. All of these items you will be hearing in great detail later tonight. So next slide, please. Let's see. So the project site, it's 7 acres, and it's been designated by the city as an urban village. So since this urban village plan has not been approved, we are proceeding as a signature project, which is what allows residential uses to be developed. So this means that there's a commercial requirement that needs to be met on site. There's enhanced architecture that the city will look for, as well as a significant amount of public open spaces and community input. So as I mentioned, this is a partnership. It's called Green Republic Blossom Hill. It's made up of Republic Urban Properties, being the master developer of the market rate and commercial component of the project. EAH Housing is the affordable housing developer, and Swenson Builders will be the general contractor. Some of our other consultants include Swenson Architecture, HMH Engineers, WRT Planning and Design as our landscape and urban designer, who is going to be presenting some public open space items this evening, as well as Square Peg doing our signage and wayfinding. Also a little bit about Republic. We are the West Coast division of Republic Urban Properties, of Republic Family of Companies, a privately owned full-service real estate development company. We have projects in San Jose and throughout the Bay Area. We've constructed over 1,200 residential units with another 2,300 or so in development, as well as commercial and office space, and 3 hotels. We are very familiar with public-private partnerships, having worked on the Aloni project in Midtown San Jose, which is VTA property. We also have the Tamian Station TOD, which is currently being entitled, which will be a ground lease with VTA as well for market rate and affordable residential units, and a project called Gateway at Millbrae Station, which is a ground lease with BART for a large mixed-use development at their Millbrae BART station. So with that, I will introduce Scott Johnson with EAH Housing.
Hi, Scott Johnson, EAH. Some 50 years ago, communities across the nation mobilized to demand fair housing, social justice, and economic equality. EAH's origins grow out of that activism, and here we are, 50 years hence, mobilizing and activating around the same underlying issues. EAH is a full-service nonprofit housing company, and we synchronize our community building work around 4 functional areas: development, property management, services, and advocacy. Next slide, please. Throughout those 50 years of our work, EAH has been invited to partner with diverse communities throughout California and Hawaii to deliver healthy, sustainable, affordable housing that is responsive to local need. EAH, during that course of time, has developed over 100 properties, ranging from rural, lower density villages to high-rise urban towers, providing inclusive, affordable housing for large and small families, seniors, students, vets, the essential workforce, and persons with disabilities and other special needs. And in fact, we have a strong presence in Santa Clara County, where we've developed and owned 15 permanently affordable rental communities, and where we provide property management services to a total of 26 residential and mixed-use properties. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. I think I'm turning this over to VTA at the moment.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Lola Torney, Transportation Planner with VTA, the project manager for the Blossom Hill Access Study. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So VTA began developing access studies for our properties that will be redeveloped last year. So far, we've done 2, Tommian and Blossom Hill stations, as you're aware, as we've mentioned. Other studies will be added, and more access studies will be conducted as those projects move through the development pipeline. The studies aim to analyze multimodal station access and circulation on the site, as well as the surrounding about half-mile radius of the station area. And the studies provide a list of recommendations to the site for the developers and city staff to implement. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Each of the Blossom Hill studies are developed through a series of robust data collection, such as ridership and transfers, parking utilization, and station access availability, including ADA compliance and safe and comfortable connections to the station area. We also conducted outreach as part of the development and utilized some existing planning documents, such as the San Jose's bike plan, the countywide bike plan that VTA did in 2018, and our pedestrian access to transit plan. Slide. So for public outreach for the station access study itself, we did hold a community meeting back in May of last year, and we did an online survey in spring of this year. We aimed to have additional outreach conducted, such as pop-ups at the station site and additional community meetings in March, however, to complement the online survey, but with COVID, that was deemed unsafe. So the public survey was the only method utilized. And go to the next slide. In addition to public outreach, VTA, San Jose staff, and the consultant team got together and held a walking tour or walking audit on Valentine's Day of this year. It was lovely. We divided into 3 sectors, as you can see on the slide here, and walked around essentially and identified the access issues at the station itself and in the surrounding neighborhoods to see what issues people riding a bike, on a scooter, in a wheelchair, or walking around could encounter when getting to and from the station. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So some of the not so positive things we saw in our audit, curb ramps not aligning with crosswalks, intersections with no curb ramps at all, or old or faded wayfinding signage. Next slide. Next slide, please. But luckily, we also saw some good things on our tour. The great access to commercial areas we were noticing, and several locations with some very wide sidewalks, which is nice. So next slide. We were able to put all of that data collection and outreach and information we collected during the walk audit to put together the series of recommendations, and it's divided into bicycle and pedestrian recommendations. So for pedestrian improvements, you can see here, we have some wayfinding signage, some ADA ramps, as I shown in the photos, new and improved lighting, new and improved crosswalks, some widened or new sidewalks, and some pedestrian crossing beacons. If you go to the next slide, has the the recommended bikeway improvements, such as bike boxes, bike parking, a bike share station at the site, through bike lanes or cross bike striping at the intersections, separated bike lanes along Blossom Hill Road, Blossom Avenue, Cahalan Avenue, south of Blossom Hill Road, and Chenoweth Avenue, as well as some bicycle boulevard treatments along Cahalan Avenue, north of Blossom Hill Road. And all of those were identified in the city's Better Bike Plan, set to be adopted, I believe, this week or next week, sometime this month. And then the big recommendation to the new trail between Blossom Hill Road and Marshall Cottle Park. Next slide. So I can tell you that all the recommendations have been shared with project developers and San Jose. You can go to the Blossom Hill Station website to view the final access study on your own times and dig into the reports and view the pretty maps. But we do see this report coming in to play and help with implementation in 4 ways: supporting grant applications, informing negotiations with our developer partners here tonight, informing other planning efforts such as bike ped circulation or any of our transit service scheduling, as well as identifying any other implementation opportunities through other agency coordination. And with that, I will pass it on to Melanie Griswold with our development team. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Melanie Griswold, and I am the Development Director and in-house counsel for Republic Urban. So I'm happy to talk to you a little bit more about the development application. So what we're actually building on site. If we could have the next slide.
Melanie, real quick, I'm just going to do a quick reminder to everyone. We're going to take questions and discussion after the presentation, and we're already just slightly past halfway through. So I see a couple hands up, and I just wanted to let you know that we will get to you after the discussion or after the presentation. Thank you.
So the development application was submitted in April of 2020 to the city of San Jose, and it was for a special use permit and a tentative map application. So the special use permit was for the actual development of the site, and then the tentative map was for the various components of the site that we will have after we're finished with it. So as Kelly mentioned, this is essentially a parking lot that was located at the Blossom Hill Light Rail Station. And what we've proposed is a true transit-oriented development, as well as a true private-public partnership. So what we will have at the end of it is a component which is the transit improvements, the transit lot, which is at the northeast corner of the site, with approximately 212 parking spots remaining. We have on-site trail improvements. So we have Canals Creek that's running along the north side of the site, and we will be improving the site, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. We have an affordable housing building consisting of 89 affordable units, which will be permanently made available for low-income individuals. And we have a market rate and retail building, which has both a commercial component with neighborhood serving retail and approximately 15,000 square feet of that use, as well as 239 market rate rental apartments. So the overall affordability level for this development is going to be 28% affordable housing. The other component is that we have a really significant amount of public open space. So in addition to the on-site trail improvements, we will also have a public plaza where there's going to be space for the neighborhood to come, and some other areas, including a paseo and amenity path that will go along the rear of the market rate retail building. Next slide. So one of the major goals for the site was really thinking about how can we limit the amount of parking and reduce the surface parking lot, but maximizing some of the shared opportunities for parking, and just trying to make the best use of the space instead of just having a surface parking lot that doesn't really do much other than benefit cars. So what we have now is roughly the same amount of parking spots that were there before, but we've divided them into the transit area, which has 212 parking spots. And that was based on what VTA assessed as their needs for Blossom Hill light rail users. And then in the market rate building, what we've done is we've put the majority of the parking for the project. And that will have a total of 323 parking spaces. Those are going to be shared between both the affordable residents and the market rate residents, as well as the commercial uses. And what we thought was by putting them all in the same area, you really maximize the opportunity to have overlapping uses of the parking spots, with the residents using more of the parking spots in the evening, and the commercial tenants and people visiting those sites using them during the day. So rather than doubling up and wasting that space, we've put them in the market rate building, and hoping that that will make the site more efficient. One of the things that we're really proud of in this development is the number of bike parking spots that we have. So we have a total of 309 permanent bike parking spots available for the commercial and the residential users. And then we will also have additional bike parking that will be available in the VTA lot for neighborhood residents who will be using the VTA station. And so it's an approximate ratio of 1 bike per dwelling unit. And that's about 4 times more than what the minimum that the city requires. Next slide. So the market rate building. The architecture that you see here is going to be consistent both on the affordable and the market rate building. We're going with a Spanish style architecture, more of a Mediterranean theme. We're incorporating limestone facades, some stone to really give it a rich texture, a rich feeling to the signature project. And as I discussed, we have the parking located within the market rate building. So the first 2 levels of the project are parking essentially with the retail uses and the residential lobby and some of the neighborhood rooms being wrapped on the outside. So that parking is going to be largely hidden from view, giving a really beautiful exterior, something that's welcoming. So you're not looking at the surface parking lots that we see so much of San Jose having. The second floor of the market rate building, that's sort of that cutout, is where we will have amenities for the residents. We have a pool, barbecue area, and other things for residents to go to. And that will also be offered to the affordable residents as well. We're currently exploring different opportunities for some mural art and signage. We've got some really great visibility from Highway 85 as we're coming along that road. And so what we want to do is have something really interesting, distinctive, something that signifies San Jose on the building, so that you've got something nice to look at as you're coming down the highway as well. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Scott Johnson, our affordable partner, to talk more about the affordable building.
Thank you. Integrated within the Blossom Hill Master Plan is an elegant 5-story affordable building that contains 89 residential units ranging from studios to 3-bedroom apartments, and which will offer significant indoor and outdoor amenities, including a large multi-use room, a learning center, a fitness room, computer lab, laundry room, bicycle hub, community garden space, and other outdoor open space amenities. The building is designed and it's programmed to provide affordable rental housing over the term of the VTA's long-term ground lease. Affordable housing, deed restricted over the term of VTA's ground lease. At lease up, rents will be affordable to households earning extremely low, very low, and low incomes. When completed, the community will be leased up and will be professionally managed by EAH's Property Management Division, and our programming will offer a range of tenant services designed to support the health and wellness of those future tenants. And I'll now turn it back to Melanie of Republic Urban.
Thanks, I'm back again. So next slide. Actually, we're on the slide I need. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the trail, the Marshall Cottle Trail. So I understand that this was something that was really, really important to the community as to how to connect Blossom Hill to Marshall Cottle Park and how to also improve some of the safety around the station. So one of the big things about doing that was, how do we actually create a passageway to go from Blossom Hill to Marshall Cottle Park? As you see from the pictures, and as I'm sure many of you know who are familiar with the neighborhood, there's no current access from one side to another other than going through the station. And you have a large wall dividing it. We have fencing on the northeast side of the site where you can't access Marshall Cottle Trail. So basically it's not very accessible, not very user-friendly, and doesn't really feel that safe. So next slide, please. So one of the things that we are going to be doing as part of this project is certainly doing the on-site improvements. And so that is the component of the Marshall Cottle Trail that is located on the site. And that's at the bottom of that map that you see here. We also have to work together with a number of different jurisdictions and landowners because there's multiple people who have land that connects it to Marshall Cottle Trail. So we have Caltrans, who owns the area underneath the freeway, Valley Water, who owns the portion of the site that is to the northwest. It's a sort of you see in the upper part of the map. And then we have the actual connection to county parks. So we've been in sustained discussions with all of the different entities and have been gathering some really great support around how to actually make sure that this trail will get built and that we will be able to connect Blossom Hill to Marshall Cottle Park. Our goal is to have a Class A bike pedestrian trail and to incorporate sustainable landscape, benches, seating option, enhanced wayfinding. And we're working through that entitlement process right now as we speak. So hopefully we'll have some more to report. We're going to have to seek permits from a bunch of different agencies, but there's a lot of support in the community, a lot of support among the agencies. So I think we're confident that we're going to find a path literally to being able to connect Blossom Hill to the parks. And I'm going to turn it over at this point, I think, to Jim Stickley of WRT to talk more about the site plan and circulation and how we've been thinking about that.
Great, thanks, Melanie. Jim Stickley, principal with WRT. We are an urban planning and design firm, and our firm has been involved with helping communities improve their public space and transit-oriented areas for over 50 years. So this is a project very much in our sweet spot. So we've been fortunate to collaborate with the team in developing the site plan. And then as more on the landscape architecture side, we are in the process of designing these spaces and, you know, what the experience is that people are having as they move through these spaces. So the next slide, my colleagues have talked a lot about some of the goals for the project. Kelly mentioned increasing ridership. Lola mentioned a lot of the access enhancements that are needed. And Melanie mentioned the Creekside Trail and the importance that that will have in connecting this site and Blossom Hill Road all the way up to Marshall Cottle Park. So I think our job has been to recognize all of those goals and in a sense build a framework for the plan that achieve those goals. So very direct access to the station itself, first and foremost, bicycle access that goes not only in that central spine to the station, but also having alternative routes that go around the back of the site and up along the creek. And then an internal circulation network that connects to those spines. So, and in the next slide, you can see that's a little bit further broken out into the primary bike access that slips around behind the market rate building, accesses the station, and then continues on to the trailhead to Canoas Creek. And then the creek trail itself, and then sort of a secondary bike access that comes right up the middle through the Paseo. So if that's our framework, then onto that framework, then we can start to develop spaces where different things happen. And if we go to the next slide, we can see what those spaces are. So around back of the market rate is the amenity trail. Up through the center is the Paseo, where we've got lots of different activities that are activating that Paseo. At the end of that terminus is the Transit Plaza, and that's really the destination in terms of the public space, and situated so that it really enhances and facilitates the use of the station itself. Trailheads where these circles are at each of the corners that sort of announce and invite people to come in and use not only the amenity trail but also the creek trail. So those are the major spaces, and one more, which is the streetscape along Blossom Hill itself. So some sort of an enhanced pedestrian environment, but also something that's pleasant for bus users to access that use the bus stops right here in the front edge of this site. So I'm going to kind of walk through each of these spaces very briefly just to talk about how we're thinking about the character of those spaces. And next slide. So the Paseo, as I said, comes right up the center. This is a really broad, gracious double alley of trees. It has a very activated edge along one side in the ground floor of the market rate building, but there are also active uses, as Scott mentioned, in the ground floor of the affordable building, community rooms and whatnot. And all of those things are meant to create a sense of place as you come up the Paseo. And the next slide. And then the creek trail itself, as Melanie described, this is planned to be very much enhanced from its current condition in terms of not only a multi-purpose path, but different rustic elements and furnishings as you go along the trail, and a planting scheme that can start to enhance the ecological function along the creek and use native species so that we can really start to take advantage of this as a part of the overall regional ecological network. And next slide. And then the amenity trail that slips around behind the market rate building. This is really interesting space in which we envision lots of different activities happening. We're looking at having exercise stations for residents, but also for members of the public that just want to use this as an alternative trail to the station. or create a loop or connect to Marshall Cottle Trail, a place to walk your dog, a place just to sit and reflect. So lots of amenities all along the way, as well as a buffering between this space and the freeway off ramps. And next slide. And then as you come up the Paseo, there is a space that is a small plaza that is associated with the community room of the market rate building, but is also meant to be shared for other community uses. So someone in the community that wants to have a certain type of event or a meeting, they could reserve this space, both the indoor component, but also the outdoor component. And it's designed to be very informal, sort of a beer garden character, perhaps with some play structures for kids, and then a robust complement of planting, separating this space from the market rate building, but also providing opportunities for stormwater management. And the next slide. And then the transit plaza itself, this is really, as I said, the destination for the public space system. It's meant to be attractive and compelling when it's not full. So it has a very sculptural character, interesting seating wall shapes and paving patterns, lots of canopy, but also very flexible so that it can accommodate a whole variety of different types of activities and events, including food trucks and different community events that might want to happen here. It's also a waiting area and a drop-off point and a transfer point. So there's lots of things happening, and the whole idea is that it has a real flexibility in how it's used. And I think we have some images in the next slide that shows some of our ideas. Yeah, so here you can see some of the things we're thinking about. On the bottom, the little boy running on these very sculptural seating steps. There might be an art element just as you come out of the station, sort of marking this as a distinctive place, so it really becomes known as the Blossom Hill identity. Paving that is organic in its forms and has a bit of interest, as I said, even when it's not in use. And then again, a really robust landscape that surrounds this plaza, separating it from the market rate building, separating it from the freeway, but providing an opportunity for stormwater management and native plantings. And I believe that's it. And I'm turning it back over to Kelly.
That's great. Thanks, Jim. You said you'd be brief, and I'm very impressed. I was like, wow, you did a lot with a lot of information. Thank you. Just a couple of quick things to keep on the screen for now, and then I will get to your questions and try and put the best people in charge of answering them. And if we can't answer them tonight, we'll keep track of it. That if you go to vta.org/Blossom Hill Development, that's the VTA's project website. You can sign up to make sure you get email updates there. You can also go to the developer's own website. It's republic@blossomhill.com. They have a whole bunch of stuff there, including preliminary images, such as some of the ones you've seen tonight. And that also provides the link to the survey. So if you don't have time to do the survey tonight, or if you want to share a way to do the survey with other people in your neighborhood, then you can get that through the developer's website as well. And so with that, I will turn to the questions. I'm definitely going to ask Kathleen and Jolene and others on the VTA team, Lola, if you can, to help me. There's a lot of screens open, and I want to make sure I see hands raised and I see questions typed. So I know there's a few typed questions, and it looks like there's 2 hands raised. Why don't we start with a hand raise and then a typed question and then a hand raise and a typed question, and I'll try and keep it. Oh, here's Kieran. Okay, I'm going to go with Kieran first because he's got his hand raised and he's asking. So how do we unmute Kieran?
Kieran,
Oh,
just
okay,
unmuted
Kieran,
you.
go for it.
Go for it.
Hold on.
Got a little background there.
Can you hear me well?
With an echo. Uh-oh, you just muted again.
Can you?
I just unmuted you.
Can you hear me now?
That is
Yeah.
much better. Okay, go for it.
So let me ask the question. So thanks for a detailed review or detailed, details of the project. I'm really impressed with some of the details that you've given and the benefits it will bring us. I'm a resident. We live in a community. It's called the Blossom Hill Homes, exactly on the other side of the current station, Blossom Hill VTA station. So we are about 350 homes here. We are all concerned about what's the impact on our community, especially with the children freely walking around today, and with the the crime rates and things like that. I haven't heard anything from your presentations about what security measures and what measures you're going to take post the development when you're putting all the commercial and residential and everything. Is there going to be a small police station of some kind, or what kind of security measures you have? And secondly, there's already a problem of homelessness in just behind the VTA station today. And you can see the trailers and campers lined up behind. It's also a big fire hazard because there's a lot of brush and things like that. And the city keeps coming and cleaning it up, and then it's back to normal again after a few weeks or months. So in this scenario, what are the measures you're taking to make sure that it's all safe?
I could answer that if you'd like. So one of the big things that we're doing is really crime prevention through design. So there likely won't be a substation of police, but what we're doing is literally activating the site and making use of the area so that there isn't room and there aren't those dark areas where people aren't going, where crime tends to just be fostered. So underneath the freeway underpass, that's sort of a perfect example. When we connect the path, there will actually be a way of getting there, eyes on that site, people going through there, such that there aren't those sort of dark alleyways where you tend to have more homeless people going and just not having the security and viewpoint. On the rear side of the building, which would normally be an area where you might have that dark alleyway, that's one of the reasons that we're activating it with an amenity trail. We're creating a screen between the garage and that area that's see-through so that you always have people that are going to have eyes on the site. And as part of the improvements that we expect to make to the area, there will likely be lighting. One of the projects that we did that Melissa Durkin talked about at BART, we were able to leverage state funding to get approximately $1 million for security measures for the actual state transit station there, the BART Plaza. And so that's one of the things that we'd like to try and do here is to be able to leverage some of the state funds that are available, try and get as much money as we can into making it a beautiful, safe environment for not only the residents, but of the actual community, but the residents around it.
Thank you. So just to complete this question, so you are going to essentially open up the dark alleys and make it not amenable to crime and things like that. But are you going to have any measures to stop camping or the homeless who are stopping there on the road behind? Does the road even behind the current VTA station belong to VTA? Or the side, the curb area, the area after the curb and between the highway, does that belong to VTA today?
Are you talking about the public road that's behind?
Yes, just behind the VTA. The VTA is the main road facing Blossom Hill. I'm talking of the road behind. It's called the Velasco Drive.
No, that's a public roadway. So that's that wouldn't be under the jurisdiction of the project. No, there really isn't a way. I mean, there is, because of the Constitution and the First Amendment, there's no way to stop or keep certain people out from the trail. But by creating more people that are using the area, we'll have public or property management that's on site. It creates a less hospitable environment for crime, because people who are engaging in crime, they typically want to be out of sight. They don't want to be in the eyes of people that are going to be reporting it and having the police come. So, it is going to be an open area, open to the public, but we're hoping by activating it, it reduces that criminal element that's there.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go to one of the written ones. Are EV charging stations planned?
Ooh, that's a good one for Lola, if you want, Lola. Lola and I can handle that.
Yes, so we internally at VTA are going to start requiring parking stalls at our transit stations to have EV hookups, but not necessarily have all of those installed with EV chargers, but we'll sort of monitor the demand and see how many will be needed. We also, for policy, now can start charging at our transit stations, charging for parking. And so that will help supplement the cost to install EV chargers, and then on top of what would be someone who is using those chargers would pay. So as of now, yes, but we're not exactly sure how much will be there.
And I think it's fair to also say that those are the public chargers. Those are chargers that will be in the public parking lot, the transit parking area. And then the developer, Melanie or Melissa, if you want to talk a little bit, I think you're planning to and required to put charging in your building for the residents as well. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So we'll have 10% of the stalls will actually have EV charging equipment that is installed, and I believe it's the next 20% will be have the utility infrastructure already in place, so that EV stalls could be sort of easily converted. And then the utility infrastructure backbone of the building needs to be capable for making 100% of the stalls EV at some point in the future. So we will be providing a substantial amount of EV charging for residents.
And then I'm going to take it to the Zoom, the caller one. Eugene Bradley, I'm unmuting you. And so you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can everybody
Okay,
hear me?
good.
Everybody hear me? My name is Eugene Bradley. I'm the founder and CEO of the Silicon Valley Transit Users. Just a couple of questions I had regarding this development. One of them is that the fact that VTA plans on further reducing transit service in the area, and particularly possibly the 27 bus line. From my research, that bus only runs until about 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and only from about 9 to 5 on weekends. And even then, the frequency is only about every half hour, at most about every hour. How will this development help spur the ridership, considering that the bus that serves that, even though you already have light rail that's been there since roughly the 90s, how will the development reflect usage of the bus that's there, besides possibly even any private services from tech companies?
This is Kelly. I can give a partial answer to that. I don't have any information about service changes, cuts, or increases in service at all. I'm sorry, I can't answer to that. I'm sure Kathleen can get back to you if there's no one tonight who knows that. I can tell you though that when the project is built and constructed, that central Paseo that Jim talked about, is going to be, although it would allow buses to go in there, part of the plan, the site plan, is to have the bus station itself for the 27 and any other Blossom Hill Road buses move out to Blossom Hill Road. And part of that is to increase the efficiency of the buses. Right now, they have to come, whether they're going eastbound or westbound, turn in, go all the way through the parking lot and through the loop and then back out. So it does add quite a bit of time to it. And so, and Lola, I'm sure, can speak to this too, is that a lot of the long-term planning that's going behind this particular project is what the Blossom Hill Road will look like when the bus station is there, both eastbound and westbound, so both sides of the street, as well as potentially new bike lanes, new sidewalk, and that kind of stuff. So although I can't speak to the frequency of service or the number of routes or whether new routes will ever be rerouted, I can tell you that it will be designed with the intention of continuous, having bus service provided and making it easier to embark and debark on the buses and have access to the retail and the residential buildings along Blossom Hill, as well as access to the light rail station for people making transfers as well. So there is that, at least.
Right. My other quick question is, will there be housing for ADA disabled people in the development, preferably on either the ground floor or an accessible means by either elevator or escalator?
So I guess I'll answer that one. All of the units are compliant with any ADA requirements. They all have access to elevators, from whether it's outside of the building or within the building from the garage itself. So yes, everything complies with all ADA requirements.
I see. Thank you. I'll ask any further questions in email. I don't want to take up any other time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Oh, it went away. There was a question about how tall are the buildings. We can still answer that.
So the affordable building is 5 stories tall and the market rate is 6 stories tall. That translates into the top of the roof being approximately 80 feet, just under 80 feet tall for the market rate.
Okay, thank you. And next one is, have there been any traffic impacted studies done? That is this person's main concern.
So as part of our environmental review process, we are working with Hexagon traffic engineers along with the city to perform any required traffic analysis that's required for the site. That report, I believe, is still underway as we've sort of been continuing to refine the project and sort of confirming the number of units and the amount of commercial space that will be located on site. But yes, everything, traffic, any environmental impacts will be thoroughly evaluated through the EIR process, which I believe will take about a year.
I'm going to take it to another caller. Nina Merle, okay, I was trying to allow Nina to, I don't know if you put your hand down or what happened to it. I was trying to let Nina talk and I guess she lowered her hand. Or did I get you in? Let's see. No, it's back. Okay, Nina, I'm unmuting you. Did it work?
Oh, thank you.
It jumps around. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you so much. I was curious about the affordable housing. Is there a swimming pool going to be available to those residents?
This is Scott here. There is no swimming pool that is designed specifically within the affordable housing building itself. I'll let Melanie speak to the market rate building.
Yeah, so all of the amenities within the market rate building will be offered to the affordable residents. And so we have committed to making all of those amenities available.
So there will be a swimming pool available to the affordable housing residents.
It will be offered to our affordable partner But it's ultimately up to our affordable partner who's going to be operating and managing the building as to whether they want to take advantage of that or not. There's operational challenges to that, but as the sort of market rate master developer, we are making that available. So if that is something that works for the management structure, then that swimming pool will be available.
So is it going to be available to the residents at a fee, or would they be able to use the pool for free?
There's no fee is planning on being charged to our affordable partner for that.
Okay, thank you. And regarding the building height, why are the buildings so tall? There's nothing else tall around here.
So it's interesting because it is in a signature, an urban village and a signature project. So the actual allowable height is quite a bit taller than what we're proposing. And one of the comments that we've received from the city is, why aren't you going taller? So it's always a balance with transit-oriented development. You want to put your high density housing as close as possible to transit to encourage folks to take transit, to try and reduce congestion, but also balance it against what is currently there and the neighborhood. Fortunately, we do have, because Blossom Hill is a very wide road and you have the freeway on one side and the station, we have a lot of buffering between the where the building is located and the single family residence. But it's interesting because from the city's perspective, we're not going tall enough, but we think that it's a good balance of density and that because of that buffering, we hope that there won't be too much of an impact on our single family residents that are nearby.
Well, thank you for acknowledging that it is an impact on these single family residences. And thank you for not going taller.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you.
Okay. This is, we go back to the slide. Okay. Looks like this is a long one. So overall, I'm impressed with the presentation and I'm curious to the businesses coming in.
So it's a little early in the process to begin starting to reach out to prospective tenants. But, we're hoping to really have a mix of neighborhood serving retail, whether it's restaurants, breakfast places, cafes, maybe a gym. We don't know yet, it's too early. But I think, we should be fairly successful, I think, in this location. Really putting these uses along Blossom Hill where they get the most visibility. The sidewalks are large, so we envision, outdoor eating as well. But I think once the project is approved and under construction, I think that's when we'll start to get more tenant, questioning the site. And I think we'll probably do a website as well that is going to help market the site. So great question. I wish I knew, but it's a little too early.
And we have a funding question. Can someone enumerate the different taxpayer public funds that will be used for this construction? I think this is a good one to explain that it's not taxpayer funded in this particular one. So maybe Kelly, or maybe if Jessie is on, maybe she would like to answer that.
Sure. Yeah. So the question is the different taxpayer and public funds that are used. As I mentioned in the introduction, the intention of the public-private partnership with the private developer is that it's private money that builds the market rate project. So VTA is actually, which is the public, VTA is the public agency, is actually going to be getting rent money from the developer for the 240 or whatever the number of market rate units are that are ultimately approved. On the affordable housing, the building that has the affordable units, the subsidized units, I'll defer to Scott to answer that. There will be some public funding in there, and Scott's an expert in that. Could you handle that, Scott?
I can handle that. Yes, I'm happy to. Yeah. As in all deed restricted, permanently affordable rental housing that's developed and sustained and operated over time, the financing that is required to create and sustain that affordability is a combination of public and private sources of both debt and of private equity. And the main engine that gets bricks and mortars into the ground and deed restricted affordable housing sustained over time in perpetuity is the low income housing tax credit program. That is a program that provides for credits that private investors actually purchase. So it's a private investor driven program. And that's the main source of the overall financing structure for the affordable housing. The city of San Jose will be providing housing dollars that are designed and programmed to be invested in opportunities such as that which we're bringing forward here, as well as the county, Santa Clara. They will be our future financing partners on the affordable side.
Okay. So I didn't realize I needed to lower the hand. So I'm not sure if the raised hands are the original raised hands or if they are new questions from the first one. So I'm just going to go back. A couple hands just went down. Okay, but I'm just going to check in real quick with the raised hands, make sure they're not old raised hands or if they are new raised hands. So I'll start with Eugene. Did you have a new raised hand or did I just leave you up there from the last call? I guess not. Okay, we'll go back to the other questions. I will lower that hand. No, it won't even go away. Okay, well. Okay, I have things to learn here. Okay, so will the approved financial terms of the lease arrangements be made public? And if so, when?
I can take that. No, they aren't. They're going to be presented to the board of directors at a closed session board meeting. They've already actually looked at some of them. There was a closed session item last week on September 3rd at the board meeting, and they will see it probably once or twice more before the terms are finalized. So it is a decision made by the public board of directors, but because it's a real property negotiation, those staff reports are not shared on the open agenda. The affordable financing, however, are those applications when if you apply for low-income housing tax credits, is there anything that becomes public document, Scott, or not?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That becomes part of the public record. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So for the because of the project that has more public subsidy, as Scott answered a few minutes ago, does have public availability and eyes on it. But the deal between the market rate developer and the development partnership and the board is what we call a closed session item, private negotiation.
So we have another traffic concern on Blossom Hill increasing. Did we want to address that a little bit more?
Sure. So as I mentioned, the traffic report is still underway. I don't know if there's going to be any sort of mitigation requirements in terms of maybe lengthening any queuing along Blossom Hill to get into the project site. That's still sort of to be determined. Potentially that would be something we could address at the next community meeting. But at this point, I'm not aware of any sort of mitigation that would take place to address any new traffic that would be added as a result of this project along Blossom Hill Road. But yes, it would all be disclosed in our traffic study and part of the EIR.
Let's see. As I'm about to read the question, it just blinked and went away on me. Where did it go? and the question was, is this the first project in Santa Clara County? Unless they've changed it. So I'm going to read the new question. Why are they not planning to build in Snell or Chenoweth VTA stations?
I can try and take a stab at that. It is not, well, VTA is only in Santa Clara County. So all of VTA's projects will be in the county. This is not the first TOD project that that's being planned. There's one that is almost completely approved at Tamian Station, which is a little further north on the light rail line around Alma and Willow and Lick Avenue, closer to downtown. So that is a project that has received some public approvals and is expected to be in construction first, probably in about 18 months or so, late next year or early in 2022 for that one. There are plans to build at those other stations, certainly Snell, I know. And if you go to the TOD website at the VTA page, if you click through VTA.org and just you can put in the little search button, transit-oriented development, you'll see all 25 of the sites. And some of them are in development right now. Cerrone is in development. Kirtner just went through a big Evelyn in Mountain View. So there are a number of them that are very close in progress to this one, but you know, everyone needs a different amount of environmental research and needs a different kind of, you know, development partner. So they move at different paces, but there's probably 5 or 6 currently under development. This is not the first, and there's about 18 or 19 more to come.
And this is Jessie. I just wanted to add really quickly. Hello, everybody. My name is Jessie, and I am VTA's Transit-Oriented Development Manager. There actually is a project at the Ohlone Station project. It's one of our first ever TOD projects that VTA built in partnership with Eden Housing. So some of the units that were built there were built in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you can see that. And that was kind of the original generation of TOD, and we're excited to kick off these new projects, which will be our next generation TOD going forward.
I see another question there, Kathleen. You want me to go ahead? So there's a question from Rick, which is, will VTA charge for parking, for daily use parking for the trolley commuters and the bus commuters? Possibly. Right now, VTA does not charge for parking at any of their light rail park and ride lots. We do charge for parking at our BART stations, at our Milpitas and our Berryessa BART stations, have a daily parking charge, or you can buy a monthly pass if you want. And it is possible that in the future, there will be a parking charge at any of the other stations, depending on usage. But every time it has to be approved by the board. That's why, remember that opening slide where we had the board members' names listed. So there will be a public hearing with public comment anytime a station is proposed to transition to paid parking. So it won't be a surprise, and there are currently no plans to charge for parking at the Blossom Hill station. And in fact, the 210 parking spaces that are being kept for transit use are being kept on purpose, because we know people do use it to park for the day and take the light rail in. A lot of them, some of them take private shuttles in or take a bus, public bus as well. So we know that there is a need for day use parking there, which is why we're working with the developer to make sure that that they build enough parking for their private residences, and that the 212 parking spaces are available for commuters during the day or during typical weekdays. So we are trying to think ahead to that. So there's no plans to charge for parking, but it's possible that could change in the future, maybe even years or decades in the future. That might be something that happens.
Let's see, we answered the swimming pool question for affordable housing residents. It sounds like it is available in the market rate building if the management of the affordable housing chooses to go with that option. Is that correct? Okay. It came out as a written one. Let's see. The developer mentioned using public funds for policing. I have to admit, I'm not hearing all the answers as I'm trying to manage this. So did you want to clarify or expand that?
Yeah, maybe Melanie could just speak to that. I'm not sure that that's, I think she was talking about eyes on the site. Are you there, Melanie?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what the question was, public funds for policing?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't control or have any jurisdiction over the budget for San Jose Police Department. But what we can do and what we have done, Republic has done at other developments, is to be able to leverage some of the state grants that are out there for projects that improve transit ridership. And one of the things that improves transit ridership is making people feel safe at transit stations. So at the Millbrae BART station, we were able to obtain grant funding to improve the security measures there, security cameras. We can't get more San Jose police officers out there. We don't have that power, but we can improve the lighting and improve the overall look and feel and design of the site to reduce crime.
Okay, thank you. And let's see. Sounds like a discussion. As a nearby single-family homeowner, I'm not thrilled with the additional traffic and other congestion that this will bring. I see garbage and police activity at other affordable housing units, but I hope this development will help with the homelessness problem that is growing here. Thank you for this comprehensive presentation. Thank you. We hope that this also will help with cleaning and making the parking lot look a lot more attractive and activating that area. Here we go. I don't know much about traffic studies. What will that entail? Maybe can we talk about what a traffic study entails? And then how do we report on it to the public?
Sure. So, and I'm going to call on my colleague Melanie as well. So the city has sort of gone away from level of service. So they would rate the intersection with a letter, depending on maybe how long it would take for a car to get through the traffic signal. Now we've moved towards vehicle miles traveled. So essentially they, I think, run a model that plugs in the, new trips that would be generated from the site, but also look at its location and how they envision the car dependency given this location. So with that, the mitigation for vehicle miles traveled, I believe, is a fee that gets paid to the city. And with that money, they could, I think, use it to maybe boost bicycle paths or pedestrian walkways. I'm not sure if it does tie into actual upgrades to the traffic configuration or not, but Melanie, what's your understanding?
So my understanding, and probably Councilmember Camus can definitely speak to this. I saw that he was on the call, but the VMT mitigation fee is assessed, and it looks like, even though this is a transit-oriented development, and sort of by definition, this is supposed to reduce congestion and ultimately decrease overall vehicle miles traveled, because we're in a relatively suburban area outside of downtown, we actually have a VMT impact according to our initial environmental studies. And so what that translates into is a fee that will range between $1.5 million and I think approximately $2.5 million. that the city can use on projects that reduce vehicle mile impact. Currently, it looks like the project where the money from this development will be used is on the expansion of the Canoas Creek Trail. Although I'm not sure, it depends on, sorry, my kids are banging, trying to get into the door right now. It depends on how much that trail costs, whether there's additional money left over. I know that there's some bike trails that are planned for Blossom Hill Road. So that pot of money, similar to an affordable housing impact fee, all goes to fund things that are important to the city. And in this case, the VMT would be for projects that reduce congestion, reduce vehicle dependence.
Right, and I know the city is really good at posting all of their environmental impact reports online. So I know as soon as a draft is available, it will be on the city's website.
I'm going to take this to Alex Shore. Alex, I am unmuting you. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is Alex Shore with Catalyze SV. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of transit-oriented development and the need for VTA, our community, to build fewer parking spaces at locations like this one?
Yeah, I guess I can handle that if it's sort of not just this one, but all of them. As I said in the beginning, the one of the primary purposes of the TOD program of sort of filling in our parking lots and other underutilized public spaces that VTA owns and operates is to take advantage of transit that already exists and hopefully expand it, as Eugene Bradley was talking about, not cutting service but increasing service. So there is a very intentional objective of trying to build more homes, apartments, affordable apartments, offices, retail spaces, restaurants, industrial spaces, you name it, where there is existing roadways that are high use, high transit corridors, things like El Camino Real or Santa Clara Street, where the BART stations are, where our light rail line is. So we're, in this case, there's over 400 parking spaces there today. And we have told the developer, this relates actually the earlier question about why are the buildings so tall. If you want to get 300 or 350 apartments in one or two buildings, you could, cover the whole parking lot with those buildings, but then there wouldn't be any room left over for transit parking. So one of the reasons that their buildings are 4 or 5 stories tall is because we've told them you have to leave at least 212 of these spaces available for commuters to use. So that means that the units sort of get stacked on top of each other so that space can stay open. So in this case, we are reducing the overall number of public parking spaces and transit parking spaces, but we're still ensuring that there's a minimum of 212 of them there, which is more than any cars we've ever seen parked there. And I know that's another question that I already saw typed in, which is, will those parking spaces be available to users who use private shuttle buses? And right now the answer to that is absolutely yes. They will be exactly like the parking lot that's there today. It'll just be 212 spaces instead of about 350 spaces. So the whole goal is to try and invest in active transportation, such as bike paths and trails, to try and put meaningful uses, high utilization buildings near light rail and near bus lines, so that we can stop driving our cars for every gallon of milk or, everything you need from the store. Hopefully we can try and move people to drive less and take transit and walk and bike more. So that is an objective of the TOD program. And that is one of the reasons why we are proposing this program and ask the developer to propose this.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, this is Okay, I just got your internet connection is unstable. Hopefully we're still good. Regarding policing, so everybody knows, or I think most people know, that VTA properties are managed by county sheriff, and this is still a VTA property. So I understand our transit station will still be policed by county sheriff. Is the rest of the property going to be would police response be county sheriff or San Jose PD? So I guess would the development be, if there was an incident, who would be the responsive agency?
I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to that question. I think that's one we want to get back to we would want to have somebody from operations get back to that to make sure we get the right answer.
Okay.
This is Jessie. I just wanted to weigh in slightly there. I think that the sheriff's office would be responding to any transit related issues.
Yeah.
The improvements would be on VTA land. However, I do think if there was an incident on either project of improvements, that San Jose would respond, but we will confirm that and get back to everyone.
Okay, let's see. Question for the developer. Okay, it looks like you guys were, I'm going to let you answer that. It looks like there was a private, like you were answering this type, so I don't know how it was answered initially. It looks like about the incorporation of the developer's company, like why it was incorporated in Delaware, not locally. So I'm guessing that was typed initially.
Yeah, I mean, I answered it. It was related to why the LLC was formed approximately a year ago. So the LLC was formed because it was a partnership between Swenson Builders, EAH, and Republic Urban. It's very standard to form a separate entity for each project in the development community. And it's also pretty standard to have LLCs incorporated outside of California. There's different, the court system in Delaware is faster, and there's other advantages. I think the question was whether that is to shield you from liability. And no, it does not shield you from liability in California. It's simply a more streamlined process for certain things, but there's no nefarious intent there. It's just a very standard procedure.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Blossom Hill Road bus stop is very far from VTA entrance, I think. It can impact ADA clients trying to transfer between transfer points. How will VTA sync the two?
Is Lola on the call? She might be good for that one.
Sure, yes. We do plan on having that gorgeous paseo that is shown perfectly on the slide here. Thank you for queuing that up ahead of time.
Shows a pretty picture.
Exactly. So we do intend to make sure that the transfers between light rail and bus is as beautiful and will be ADA compliant. There's no question about that. And other than that, the reason behind moving the buses off of out of the station area and onto Blossom Hill Road, as Kelly mentioned earlier, is to improve our scheduling for our buses and make them more efficient. So they don't need to make that turn into the station entrance and then back out and wait for green lights and turning left, and things always take longer. So having it right on the road, make sure that the transfers are quick and hopefully and beautiful, and then also the bus riders aren't the additional bus riders aren't impacted by traveling into the station and then back out.
I think the question too is about transferring from light rail to bus or bus to light rail.
Yes, so it's should be beautiful. I'm not exactly sure.
Like the timing, making sure there's enough time if you're in ADA.
Very good point. Yes. Sorry. Thank you for explaining that. Our light rail blue line, which serves Blossom Hill Station, does run every 15 minutes. And I believe, as Eugene mentioned, the 27 serves the station currently. I can't tell you in 5 or 10 years when this project is built what our bus routing will look like and what routes will serve the station. But we do try to make sure that all of our routes are have what's called headways, or they come within every 15 to 30 minutes. And that might also depend on time of day or day of week. But so I can't speak to that exactly, but we're hoping that the transfer will be pretty. Not an answer, but it's hard to know exactly how that will be done exactly in 5 to 10 years.
And I think it's worth pointing out a lot of the stuff that Jim showed. I don't know if we can get the whole site plan on the screen now too, that there will be 3 different ways to travel from the Blossom Hill station, the Blossom Hill bus stop, whether you're going eastbound or westbound, to the light rail station. So you'll have the new trail on the far west side where the green line is. You'll have the sidewalks on both sides of the main entrance where the thick red line is. And then you'll have the active trail on the far right of the slide where the letter B is right now. So if you get dropped off by a friend or what we call kiss and ride or even an Uber or another car, then you could get dropped anywhere along there and access the station through any one of those 3 ways as a pedestrian or on a scooter or in a mobility device. And you can also, and then you can, so if you're taking a bus, then you will have to traverse through the project from Blossom Hill Road back to the light rail station. But it will be accessible, all of those will be accessible, ADA accessible.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think we did try to be very deliberate about making that connection as direct as possible. Currently, if you tried to take this line that is shown in red on the one diagram, that's sort of the direct spine, you'd be going through the parking lot, or to avoid that, it's a more circuitous route. So I think that, that having this central spine, so it is taking absolutely the most direct route from Blossom Hill to the station, I think speaks to this point of its accessibility. So yeah, sometimes, whether you're disabled or not, you're going to have a tight connection, and so we want that connection to be as efficient as possible.
It's worth mentioning too that VTA is always looking at, and they evaluate the schedules, and we have schedule changes and big outreach pushes every time. Every year, every 6 months, there's always something, and we're always adjusting our schedules and frequencies and headways. So by the time this development is up and ready and running, and we make those changes, that would be looked at and adjusted to make sure that it's seamless.
And as we go forward, once this is in, as Kathleen mentioned, if we start hearing from our riders, I'm not making my connection, we will absolutely do something about that and make sure that that is addressed. Okay, and this is a Lola question. Who pays for the identified access improvements within half mile of the station? If the city, what would be their priority to make them? Great question. So a lot of the improvements recommended in the station access study will likely be covered by the city, though some of it in the immediate area where we may be asking the developer to help fund. But the city already had a lot of these in their plans. And so they already have either identified funding or plan to go after funding through grants or through more public-private partnerships. So those ones that have already been on the books, if you will, and identified by the city that we just repeated in our own access study, those will likely be the priorities for them. So Blossom Hill Road has separated bike lanes, for example, and the other ones I mentioned that are in their bike plan and our VTA transit, pedestrian access to transit plan. Other improvements too could come from members of the public, just reaching out to your council member who is here tonight and letting them know what your priorities are for pedestrian and bicycle access improvements around the station area, around your neighborhood, and making sure that those projects are then included in their capital budgets for their fiscal years. I think it's a 1 or 2 year fiscal year. I apologize for not knowing that. But so I would say, to long story short, whatever's on their books now is their main priority, and then whatever has been identified in the access study or they hear from you will be their next priorities.
A couple more. When challenges eventually emerge, as they always do, who is charged with determining accountability for particular issues to the various entities involved with this site? Is it VTA? That's something we always grapple with. And it always will depend on what is the issue. And
Yeah.
that is, it has to, it's going to depend on what's the issue. How we manage that.
Kelly, go ahead and I'll add it if needed.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, Kathleen's right. It depends. I mean, if you're talking about during this sort of pre-development period, sort of the permitting time, like when the environmental impact report is being done, or when the planning department is reviewing the signature projects getting approved, then all of that is the city's responsibility. It's a regular City of San Jose planning department project. If you have questions or concerns about the station itself, does the elevator work, or what about the stairway to the Velasco Road, for instance, then that will continue to be VTA. Other than upgrades, there's no, we're not, that will continue to be a VTA light rail station, and VTA will be in charge of that. Once the project is built and and running, then then it depends on what the issue is. If it's a safety issue at the station, then it'll be VTA operations who will be if there's a light bulb out, or and if the trail is built and there's a homeless problem on the trail, or safety problem on the trail, then that will be the city's Parks and Recreation department and the trail department there. And Melanie earlier talked about property management and asset management on site for the 2 apartments. So it's a true partnership between a lot of different entities: the county, VTA, the city, the private owners, the affordable owner, after the project is built.
And then depending on who, like VTA, we do track, we have a database, we do track. That's how we track our issues. we do have a tracking system. And then let's see, the current crosswalk at Blossom Hill Road and some avenue does not work. Perhaps a pedestrian bridge could be looked at to make bus access seamless. Without knowing the name of the other avenue, the other cross, if you want to email that to us, we can let the city know, or you could let the city know if the crosswalk isn't working. It sounds like maybe the light isn't working. City DOT, or you could let the council member know, and they can let the city DOT know.
I would.
Yeah, Blossom Road. I see it now.
I would just comment on that. Maybe Lola wants to add something, but I think, generally the way the city is going is to calm Blossom Hill, make
Blossom
it
Hill Road. Okay.
Yeah, make it more pedestrian friendly, add bike lanes. So I think, in terms of the direction the city's going, it's to make these wide corridors safer and more pedestrian friendly. And I think the strategies we're looking at for for this TOD site would be in sync with that, you know, enhancing the streetscape, enhancing crossings, you know, that of the type that Lola mentioned in her presentation. So I think, you know, there's sort of a fork in the road when dealing with these large corridors. You can sort of abandon it and go over it with a pedestrian bridge, or you can try to make the whole thing more safe and more pedestrian friendly. And I think both the city and the VTA are going in the latter direction in terms of strategy.
Well said, Jim. Yes, thank you. If you specifically, though, mean that you're pressing the button trying to cross Blossom Hill Road and it is not working, all of the roads are managed by the city, and so you can reach out to them, as was mentioned earlier.
So the next question is for all the panelists working on the project. What is your favorite unique characteristics of this project? And so this is our 4th community meeting, and in all the live meetings, you know, we heard a lot at all the community meetings about the trail connections. And I will say I really love how the developer has incorporated that trail connection. And then the next comment is somebody saying, love walking here to all the great parks. I answered that. Now all of you get to answer that.
Do you really, every one of us?
Well,
okay.
It says for all the folks.
We were asked, it was on the Q&A.
All right. I'll go then, I'll go quickly. I really like that all of the parking for the affordable housing building is proposed to be across the Paseo in the market rate building. I think that is a really modern and efficient way to handle car storage and also free up a lot of green space for the residents in the affordable buildings. So I think that's unique, and I really like that.
I will double what Kelly just said and add to that by saying that not only does it achieve all of those phenomenal public benefits, but it's a far more cost-efficient building for the nonprofit affordable housing partner to actually finance, which is you know, very fundamentally key to the feasibility of the development, cost containment. So thank you for that. Master developer, Republic Urban.
My favorite part of the development is the fact that it's flexible and that we have the surface parking lot that reflects what we need now, and that we have these shared parking arrangements which maximize the ability to actually have not as much overflow parking and that sort of thing. But having the surface parking lot there gives VTA the option in the future, when hopefully we move away from cars, of being able to develop it and to have a site that truly uses all of the land in the way that it should be used, instead of as just this terrible parking lot that is choking our skies right now. So that's my favorite part.
I am excited to start looking at some more of the details of the trailheads that we're proposing, some of the cool amenities that we're able to program there, and also looking at some of the finishing details of maybe some art components, whether it's maybe sculptures in the plaza areas or along the Paseo, and some maybe murals on the sides of the buildings as well.
I'll go next. My favorite is the what's shown in A, the transit plaza. I think utilizing the space in front of the transit plaza for things like food trucks, for things like outdoor seating where people just want to hang out and wait for their friends to catch the light rail north to downtown, for example, and just feel safe and comfortable out there, I think sounds amazing.
It's hard for me to
This
pick
is
because
Jesse.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jesse.
Go ahead, Jim. I'll go next.
All right, thanks. It's hard for me to pick because I think we're really excited about a lot of these different spaces. Definitely, I'm excited about the public space network as a whole and how it's working. But I gotta say that the Paseo really rises above for me. I think it could be a real destination for the neighborhood. I think if we get the right mix of ground floor uses, it could be really a place where people come and stroll and see and be seen and sit, at little cafe tables and in the beer garden. I think it could be a really great place for the neighborhood.
This is Jesse. I think my favorite part about the project, I'm going to list a few, but my favorite part is increased ridership. When you build new transit-oriented development at station areas, we increase the ridership for our system. One of the things that many people complain about in VTA's transit system is our lack of ridership, and it is specifically development like this and land use like this that promotes ridership of our system. And so I really appreciate the private investment that's going on between Urban Republic and EAH to make this happen. Secondly, we have aging infrastructure sitting out there today. And this really enlivens and activates an asset and makes it a community asset and a new neighborhood. So I'm really excited about that. And then last, the trail connection and the work that the developer has done to work with 3, 4, 5 agencies on making that trail connection happen at the request of our community, I just think is such a great benefit. So I'm super.
Uh-oh, she cut out. Thank you, Jesse. Well, we are coming up almost to the witching hour, and I want to thank everyone who has held on and lasted. So thank you so much. I want to put it out there that, we are always available to come to your HOA, your neighborhood association, and present to your group as well. We really appreciate you coming to our meeting. We're always available to come to your meeting as well. And I know with the pandemic, a lot of meetings have kind of gone off to the side, but I've also seen some meetings or my neighborhood associations are meeting by Zoom now. So you can invite us and we'd be happy to participate. We can come over to you. Before I let you go, I just want to remind you that the survey will be available. If I did it right, and I'm sure I did, when I end this meeting, if you are attending by Zoom, should get do you want to continue to the survey? And it should be a blue button, and you can continue to the survey. And it will give you an opportunity to provide more feedback to the developer on things you'd like to see with this development. And that's if you haven't taken it already, or it's also available on the VTA.org website on the Blossom Hill development page. So with that, I just want to thank the panelists, and we all hung in there. I really appreciate it. And thanks you guys for being patient, because I have 3 different things going on my screen. So I just wanted to make sure I got all of you. And Cody, thank you also, because we were texting. I'm like, did I get this right? I wanted to make sure I had everybody there. I didn't want to hang up on anyone or not catch your raised hand. Okay. I think
Great.
with that,
Thanks, everybody.
we're going to go back to your families. It's almost 8 o'clock.